Today, we are going to dive into what it means to take a gap year. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Nadia Castriota. I am the Director of Law Student Success and one of the admissions advisors here with Barrier Breakers. I'm excited because today we're going to talk a little bit about what a gap year means. And it's a pretty cool topic because I know that I get lots of questions from students saying, how do admissions committees interpret that? And it's really a personal choice, but what's important is what you do and the decisions that you make while you are on that gap year. So let's discuss and let's dive in. What is a gap year? A gap year is typically a pause after your undergraduate career. You take some time off to engage in other activities. You have new experiences. You might decide to further your education by getting a graduate degree, travel, work. It's often seen as a time of personal growth and professional growth and exploration. And so, for those of you who decide to take a gap year, there is no right or wrong answer. It's a personal choice, and if you do decide to do it, it is right for you. Just like if you don't, if you decide to go straight to law school, that is the right move for you. Again, during your time of this gap year, you should definitely make note of the decisions and the choices you make, because once applying, they will want to know what you've done between the time of undergrad until the time you actually apply and want to start law school. So, as you're thinking to yourself, should I take this gap year or not? I think it is important to figure out why. Why are you even asking yourself that question? Why do we even want to take this gap year? Is it because you want to take more time to prep for the LSAT? Do you want to get some work experience? I think that you need to be realistic, be real, be 100 with yourself, and just be like, why am I taking this gap year? Is it because I need a break and I feel overwhelmed? Do I need a timeout and a reset before I go into law school? And that's okay. Do I need to work full time and save up some money and be in a better financial situation before law school? But ask yourself, why am I even considering this gap year? Right. And then the second part of that is, how will my gap year be interpreted by others? What are the misconceptions of a gap year? Right. And honestly, yeah, what is a committee going to think if you just took a gap year and had no explanation? I went vacationing for a whole year. That could definitely be misinterpreted. And that's not what we want, right? We don't want committee members to make up stories in their head because you did not provide information as to what you did, or, tell us about the new experiences that you had during the time between undergrad and law school. Why not, right? This only enhances your application. It helps us know more about you. I tell my students that when you're filling out an application, the application itself is very black and white, right? You're telling us your academic history, you're telling us your employment history, we're getting to know the demographics and things about you. But when it comes to sharing in personal statements or diversity statements or things about yourself, that adds color to your application. And that is very important. So if you do take time off between undergrad and going to law school, why not fill in the blanks and let us know all the exciting things that you did while you were taking this time off? It can only help your application. So I would then say, make sure you share with us. So like I mentioned before, I have plenty of students that ask about the gap year and if it's a good move or a bad move. Like I said, I can't stress enough, it's what you do during this time. So I have students that, focus on professional development. And they decide that, they didn't have time during undergrad to maybe work in the field or get some work experience in the legal field before going into law school, and that this would look great in their application materials. And so they seek out an opportunity to maybe work in the government or public interest or at a firm, so that they can now be exposed to an area that they want to maybe get into in law school and thereafter as an attorney. This has several benefits, right? Yes, work experience is number one. Number two, being introduced to the legal field. That's always going to be helpful and beneficial to you. Meeting and networking with attorneys and what happens, right? What they're doing. And so now you're exposed to that and the work experience, which you can bring back. And later on, this could also be an opportunity for an internship or a job after law school. So it has several benefits. And again, something you can add on your resume and talk about in your application And then you have experience now later on when you're looking for, employment opportunities. Something else that the students can do during a gap year is academic pursuits. This is twofold for me because sometimes students recognize that they don't want to jump straight into law school, and that's okay, that they want to do a master's degree in between so they can strengthen their application, right? So maybe something happened in undergrad where your GPA is not where you want it to be, or your GPA is lower because you struggled a little bit, and that's okay. But the thing is that we can't change your undergraduate GPA. It happened, it's in the past, it's something that's out of your control at this point. And so you have to focus on the things that you do have control over. Maybe looking into a graduate degree where you can show the committee that you were successful, that you have a strong graduate GPA, and that this is the type of student you'll be if you are admitted to law school. Here's the thing though. I think there's some confusion where students say, well, I have a master's degree, so even though my GPA is low or marginal for undergrad, I have a graduate degree, so why can't you look at that? We cannot substitute graduate GPAs for undergraduate GPAs. Your undergraduate GPA is the requirement to get into law school. What your master's or graduate degree does, it just shows us that you are capable and that you have done well as a graduate student, but it will not substitute for the undergraduate GPA. I know I got really serious right there because that is a serious matter, and I feel like sometimes there needs to be some clarification for students, because you get upset with us when we tell you that we cannot just consider your graduate degree. Yes, we see it, and we recognize that you've done well, but we cannot substitute it for the undergraduate degree. So is it important? Absolutely. We love to see those who went and decided to do a graduate degree. And if you did really well, that's even better. So just keep that in mind. Both the undergraduate degree, super important because that is a requirement. The graduate degree shows us you're capable, and that's just as important. So the third reason a gap year is important is that maybe you had your head down in undergrad, right? You're focused on just your studies, keeping your grades up, making sure you graduate on time, that you didn't have the opportunity to network and be around professional circles. It goes hand in hand with your professional development, but making sure that you do absolutely network with this community as well. Look for mentors. Look in the field that you think you want to get into or the type of law that you want to practice. These can also be great references later on when you apply to law school, right? I have lots of students that tell me, oh my God, Dr. Castriota, when I was in school, my class was a huge lecture class and I really didn't get to know my professors and I'm scared to go ask them for a letter of recommendation. Well, here's an opportunity. If you network and you have this professional network now, you can always ask a mentor, an advisor, an employer, or someone that maybe you interned with to write you a letter of recommendation, and that holds weight as well. A part of being a law student and an attorney is networking and building relationships every day, all day. And so start when you can, right? You're building relationships in undergrad. Some of those people that you meet, those mentors, advisors, are going to be people that you will know for a very long time. The same thing exists with your circle of friends and your bubble in undergrad and in graduate school and law school. These are people that you will know for the rest of your life. Build relationships. Take yourself out of that comfort zone. Look, I am an introvert. I am a true introvert. I understand how hard it is to walk into a room and network and build relationships. But in a professional setting, you got to challenge yourself to step out of that comfort zone and do this, especially if you want to go to law school, right? You could meet so many people. We're even talking about faculty, professors at your school of choice, or maybe other schools as you're looking at law schools. Introduce yourself, find out about them, ask questions. You'll always hear me tell you to ask questions, but challenge yourself, right? When you're in a new environment, challenge yourself to meet at least two people. I'm going to challenge you to do that. Just build these relationships and network. It is so important. The next reason why students take gap years is one that's pretty important to me because I believe in balance. That is something that I constantly remind myself. What I mean by that is your personal development. I think that as we grow, we start to learn things about ourselves, self discovery, things change, things that we liked before, we might not like as we get older, or vice versa. Maybe there's new things that we tried and they're not so bad. But you definitely start to learn things about yourself. And I think that as you go into your professional setting, which is going to be your law school journey, you have to figure out the things that work for you or don't work for you. And personal development is so important. What are the things that provide balance for you? I joke sometimes with my students when they're up to here with LSAT prep. I'm like, step outside for a minute, take a break, walk through Target, get a milkshake, do yoga. I know I talked about shopping and food because those are two of my favorite things, but yoga, take a walk, some fresh air. Find out what helps you balance, what helps you reset. It is so important because while you're in the grit and the grind of law school, there are going to be days when you're just like, nope, this is it, not doing it anymore, I'm done. But what are the things that help you reset to bring you back so that you understand this is what I want to do and this is where I want to be, and I just needed a minute to pause? During this gap year or this time off, figure out what it is that you need for you. Do you like to study in big groups? Do you like to study alone? Do you want to go to a big school? Do you want to go to a small school? Do you want to stay home? Do you want to move out? Figure the things out that will help you be successful in your journey. And the final two things that students do engage in during a gap year is law school prep. I'm not even going to say just LSAT prep. It is law school prep, right? It is a whole journey. It's not an easy one, and it can be a long one. The LSAT is difficult. It does take prep time, and you have to figure out, what does that prep time look like for you? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? How much time do you need? And the other thing is that please be real with yourself about it. You know, if you take the LSAT and you didn't do well, don't turn around and say, well, I got all this work experience, so they're going to look at that and not my LSAT. Yes, they will look at that, but your LSAT is just important, right? And you can't tell the committee what you think they should look at. You can ask them respectfully, please consider X, Y, and Z, but you should know that they're still going to look at your application on a whole and every piece of it, including that LSAT and GPA. Figure out what prep looks for you. Do I want to take an online class? Do I want to take a residential class to prep for LSAT? Do I want to take one that's just on the weekends? And how much time can I dedicate to prepping for LSAT? If I'm working full time, or I'm interning full time, or I'm traveling full time, what does my prep time realistically look like? Is it just 6 hours on the weekend? And if it is just on the weekends, how much time do I need to devote to this? Is it a year? So please sit down and figure out what prep looks for you with the LSAT. Other part of law school prep is your schools. Are you looking at schools? Did you wake up yesterday and say, I just want to go to law school? Please tell me that's not what you did. I need you to really do a deep dive if this is something that you want to do. Look at the schools that you're applying to. Do the research. Figure out the deadlines. Are you applying for fall? And if fall applications open in September, go backwards. When do I need to take my LSAT? When do I need to start looking at applications? How long is it going to take me to write my personal statement? Some students think that they sit and can bang out a personal statement in 2.5 seconds. And when they actually sit to do it, it takes about 2.5 days. I know I'm exaggerating, but real talk, you need to make sure that you take the time, because once you hit submit, and I know you've heard me say this before, once you hit submit on that application, you need to feel comfortable and confident that you have submitted your best work to that school. There is no turning back at that point. So please take your time, figure out how much prep you need, how much help you need, so that you can submit great applications with good work and feel good about it. The second part of that in prep for law school is financial stability. I know it's hard paying for school, having loans, and that part I'm not going to get into because that's not my thing. And I am happy to answer questions and have people on here to talk about financial aid and loans for you. But financial stability is so important. You want to make sure that with all the stressors that you have in law school, that you're not worried about how you're going to pay for your rent, or how are you going to pay for your books, or how are you going to pay for class and tuition and all those other things. So making sure that you know, even if you have to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the time is, making sure that you've thought about this. Do I need to clean up my credit? And I know there's financial aid advisors out there that tells you credit is important when you get to law school. Find out if you've taken loans out before, what your status is with those loans before we take out more loans for law school. Do the research. Make sure that you are well equipped and that you know exactly what's going on, that you have all the information. And if you don't, find the people to ask the questions to. So if you're thinking about law school, you can call the financial aid officers or advisors and ask these questions. Maybe have a sit down with them and tell them what your situation is and how you can better that so that you're better prepared for law school. I know that I have thrown lots of information at you about gap year. And usually when you ask the question, there's just a quick answer given that, yeah, it's a personal choice and it's up to you and what you do, but just make sure you tell the committee. That's the short answer. This is pretty much the long answer, but I wanted to make sure that I just gave you some examples or some information in terms of what my students have done during a gap year. I've had students that had something happen in their family at one point and they needed time to take off and spend with their family and take care of themselves and be in a better place mentally, physically, emotionally before they went into law school. And that's okay. I've had students that said they think I want to get a graduate degree, didn't do well in my first 2 years of undergrad, and I just want to show the committee that I could do this work and I'm serious about it. And they went ahead and got a grad degree. I mentioned before, I've had students that decided they wanted some legal experience and went ahead and interned or found a job at a firm or with the government. They loved it, enjoyed it, and decided that, yep, after this, definitely going to apply for law school. And they had people that they can ask for letters of recommendations. I've had students that went into legal experience and working at a firm and realized that they actually hated it. And this was a wrong move or decision for them and decided against law school. And that's okay too, but better that you find out now than spending and investing that time and money later on into something that you're just not happy about. So all in all, I hope that I've provided you with some information and some things to think about. Again, this is a personal choice for you. There is no right or wrong answer. It's the time in between that's important. What decisions are you going to make during this gap year? What do you plan to do with your time? How are you going to use it? And how would you then tell that story to the committee later on when you're applying to law school? Thank you for tuning in again. Please send your questions. We love to answer questions. If you liked our video, please share it with a friend and look for us on social media. All right, take care, my friends. I'll see you again soon.